Hi, my name is Vivien Sharon, and I'm a real estate broker with Sotheby's International Realty Canada, and I'm very excited to welcome you to my series today, Coffee with Vivien. So let me get my coffee, and we're going to start. So today's episode is about technology and technology trends to make your home smarter and more efficient. In this episode of Coffee with Vivien, I am excited to have a very special guest here today. My guest is tech guru Marc Saltzman, who is a prolific technology expert, and he has one simple goal. His goal is to break down geek speak to street speak. And before we continue, though, let me tell you a little bit about this series. In previous episodes, I spoke to a financial expert and writer for Forbes.com. Other topics included modern marriage with a team of family lawyers and a divorce financial expert, the challenges that seniors face as they age, and they are facing healthcare issues. Spoke to a designer from Lux Designs about trends in 2021 when you're decorating or thinking of decorating your home. We also spoke to a real estate expert on the environment and how the environment affects real estate values. And most recently, we spoke to the founder and creator of ClassyLearning.com, which is a portal that offers culture and classical learning that you can do from your own home. So Coffee with Vivien covers many topics of interest: real estate, technology, interior design, lifestyle, the environment, culture, health, wellness, and more. I'm the author of the recently published book, The 7-Step Guide to Downsizing, Overcoming Fear and Discovering Freedom. I encourage you to go to my website, viviensharon.com, where you can download a free copy of this book, and you will find many tips and strategies to help adult children and their parents through the emotions of downsizing. Or you can order it on Amazon. This is the book, the Boomer 7-Step Guide to Downsizing. And if you go to Amazon and type in the title and or my name, this book will appear. It's also on Kindle and Kobo. So now I am very excited to introduce to you our guest today. His name is Marc Saltzman. Marc is a freelance journalist for more than 20 publications. He is a 16-time author, radio podcast host, and public speaker. He has appeared on CNN, NBC, CBC, CBS, Fox, CTV, Global, CP24, among other networks. He is known by many, including myself, from his tech video segments at Cineplex Movies. Marc specializes in consumer electronics, apps and games, automotive innovations, business tech, and future tech trends. Welcome, Marc.
So much, Vivien. Great to be here.
It's really exciting to have you, and we're so thrilled to learn a lot about the knowledge that you bring to the table on this topic.
Yeah, great.
So today, we're going to talk about the following 3 topics: smart homes, top tech products, and the future tech trends. So, hi, Marc. We're going to pick up our coffee mugs here. And if we're ready, we're going to take a little photo op. Oh, I don't know where to put my coffee. Okay. And we've got our coffee ready. Take a sip here.
Yeah, good idea.
And we shall start.
Mm-hmm.
So let's begin. So First, tell us a little bit in a nutshell about your background, or more precisely, how did you get into this tech business?
Sure. And thanks, first of all, for that great introduction covering the different aspects of my work as a technology evangelist, someone who likes to preach about the benefits of technology. I got started, like many, in an unconventional way. I did go to university, but I had no idea I was going to be a journalist and an author and even a techie, because I was a drummer and a manager of a band in Toronto called Remedy. And I decided to go to U of T for psych, just as a backup, in case the music didn't turn out, as it often does not. And at the same time, the internet was born, and I was just blown away at the idea of having the world at your fingertips. At that point, just through a computer, but impressive nonetheless. So simultaneously, while going to school and still playing in a band until my mid-20s, I fell into this whole tech thing. And video games the video games were maturing. They weren't just like some little fun pastimes where you have to save like a damsel in distress by jumping over barrels. It became a more mature medium. And so I started writing reviews of games and electronics and websites. And I started with broadcast, just again on my own, just self-taught. And I learned along the way. And it just really snowballed from there. So I was 26 when I fully got started. So almost 25 years ago. And no looking back. And as you can imagine, 25 years in the tech space is like 100 years of real life. I mean, it's like dog years. It evolves so rapidly, but I love it. I love the variety in what I cover, both in topic, like today, right now, it's going to be smart home tech, as well as in medium, whether it's radio or writing articles or speaking on a stage pre-COVID. It's a really fun gig.
You know what? It's really exciting because you created this niche for yourself, and there are not very many people in Canada. Certainly, you're very, very well known. And every time I went to the movie theater, I would always say, look at this guy. And he's always up there speaking about something creative. And I'm thinking, what is the next thing he's going to tell us that we need to learn?
That was a fun 10-year run. We'll see if it continues at some point during this most unusual times. But December of 2019 was my last one. I started in 2008. So 11-year run, in fact. So that was really fun to be on movie theater screens across the country.
I'm sure it will come back. Just a matter of,
we'll see.
Just a matter of when. Now, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat as we go along. And right now we're going to jump to smart homes. Tell us, why do we need smart homes?
So smart home tech, and that's a broad term, and there's a lot of choice out there, adds three things to your life: cost savings, convenience, and security or peace of mind. So some products cover all of those, some are one or the other, but there's such a variety in what's available to make your home a smarter one. And it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario, right? Not everybody wants a smart thermostat, for example, that can automate the temperature in your home and save you money on your cooling and heating bills. But it's certainly a great technology that's already been around for many years with a few different players that you will see a difference on your utility bill, or as we say in Toronto, our hydro bill. And then like there's cameras and video doorbells that add security, so you can see what's happening around your home, even if you're not there. We are a lot these days, but even if you're traveling, you can keep an eye on your home as if you were there, inside and out. And then the convenience of it, right? Just having your voice through smart speakers, be able to control it all in the most intuitive interface that we have, just speech. And these AI or artificial intelligence assistants are getting smarter all the time. So you can just say, dim the lights or turn up the music by 20%. Or, show me on my TV who's at my front door, and they all talk to one another. Even if, you're more into the Google family, into Apple or into Amazon, those are the three big players. They all kind of gel. And it's a really exciting time because you don't also have to break the bank on a lot of this tech, right? You can pick up a robotic vacuum cleaner that's voice enabled for a couple $100 that will do all the cleaning of your home for you. Or even outside, robotic lawnmowers now that will do its thing. It's wild.
So we're going to go more into detail about some of these items. But I guess a question right now I want to ask you, is smart tech popular? It seems so out there for many people. Perhaps they're just, going about their day-to-day life and they're thinking, why should I do this? And is it popular? Who is doing it?
A lot of regular folks are doing it. You don't have to be techie at all. In fact, again, as I mentioned, you don't have to break the bank. Some of this smart home tech is as low as $20 for a smart plug that plugs into an electrical outlet. And then you plug whatever you want into that little plug, which is kind of like a middleman, if you will, like a coffee maker, so that on your phone with an app or using your voice, you can start the brew of a cup of coffee, which I think is relevant for the name of your video show. So I think everyone's doing it because they're not expensive, they're easy to install. And then once they are installed, you can use an app or your voice. So you don't have to have a degree in computer engineering to know how to work these things. But as I mentioned, it's also piecemeal. Like it's modular. You can start with a smart plug for $20. And then that's exactly what we're looking at. Look how good your producers are. That's an example of a smart plug. And then you can go all the way up to smart appliances, like large laundry appliances or kitchen appliances that also have some smarts to it. And we can get into what that exactly looks like. But it's, again, you can pick and choose what you like, and you can go with different companies, and they all just seem to work together. Yeah, it's a really good time. And as far as popularity, if I could quantify it, smart home tech is the fastest growing category under the technology umbrella, with double-digit growth year over year. Smartphone sales, for example, are not really climbing anymore. They're kind of like, they've hit sort of a peak market saturation. People will upgrade, but they've already been a smartphone owner, right? But we saw, steep growth for many years. Now it's kind of leveled off. Similarly to tablets, also still popular, but we're not really seeing a spike in growth. They've been around for 11 years. Laptops did enjoy some growth at the start of the pandemic, with millions of more people having to work or school from home. But for the most part, last couple of years, smart home tech, even pre-pandemic, has enjoyed huge growth around the world because, again, there's a lot of choice and a lot of competition, which brings the price down. They're not expensive, generally speaking, to start, and easy to use. You don't have to wrestle with this technology.
So if you're building a new home, do you feel it's really important to speak to the contractor builder early on, or at some process during the way or stage that you discuss the smart home requirements or potential things that are out there?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Vivien. It would help in some regards, and in other ways, these aftermarket solutions are just as easy to use and install because they're mostly wireless. If it was still wired tech, if we were still, and there's still some things, it's more reliable to have wired tech, of course. So if you can think ahead and have that, Cat 5, Cat 6 in all the rooms and all that, sure. But it's not hard to retrofit even a 100-year-old home, with some exceptions. We'll get to the infrastructure in a moment, because none of these smart gadgets will work well if you don't have good Wi-Fi. So we'll get to that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's don't feel like you've missed the boat if you've already built a home or living in a home or cottage or cabin that was not, there was no tech that went into it. You can always do it after the fact. So don't worry about that. But yeah, if you are building from scratch, then there are some modern conveniences that you can add in there, like, different platforms that are wired to start, including the lighting, right? But you can always do that later.
I hear you. So it's something that one should think about in the process, but it can be done later in the game.
100%.
And I have a really good question here from Rachel Walters. Can smart tech be hacked? How do you protect yourself?
Yeah, great question. The short answer is yes. All tech can be hacked, but it's highly unlikely. Meaning, does somebody want to hack into your thermostat to mess with your temperature settings? Probably not, right? But there are some, concerns like Ring Video Doorbell. Who has access to it? So there always are risks, 100%. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I may call myself a technology evangelist, but I am a realist as well. And whether it's a self-driving car or your basic laptop, there are risks in everything you do. This webcam that we're chatting over right now can be hacked. It's not likely, but we've heard stories of people bringing their laptops in to be serviced. And there was a case just a couple months ago, an attractive woman in London, England, brought in her laptop into a sketchy repair shop, and the guy thought she was attractive and installed hidden software and was watching her after he returned the laptop, unbeknownst to her. That's pretty creepy, but it's very rare. But if you just practice good, tech etiquette, like have good passwords that you don't use the same for all of them, and you always upgrade whenever there's software upgrades, because the folks that make these cameras and thermostats and laptops, they always find little vulnerabilities that they patch, and that you just have to download a software update. Then you're going to stay one step ahead of the bad guys.
Yeah, I think it's very, very true that one has to rely on the internet in a huge way. And if the internet goes down, and we had that happen recently in a certain area of the city, and it happens occasionally, things then will stop. I mean, you won't have it working, and then it's a glitch. I guess it's a glitch and an annoyance.
The more we rely on the grid, whether it's Wi-Fi or electricity and all that, the more vulnerable we are, right? So that's why there are things like backup generators and all that, just in case. But when it comes to Wi-Fi, a good backup is cellular connectivity. So if my laptop went down right now as we're talking, I can create a hotspot and use my cell phone connection. Heaven forbid, but that's an option. But if that goes down too, you're kind of left vulnerable. So with that in mind, I always say, when it comes to backing up your files, a lot of people trust the cloud, which is basically uploading it to the internet. It's stored on, say, Apple's servers or Dropboxes or Microsoft's. But if you have no internet, then you can't access your important files. So it's always best to hedge your bets and to save things locally as well, like on a local hard drive like this, just in case you have no internet connection. I know we're getting a bit off topic, but my point is, yes, we are reliant on Wi-Fi. So with that in mind, with all these smart tech innovations that we're chatting about, whether they be large ones like a Samsung smart refrigerator that has a camera inside. So when you're shopping at your local supermarket, you can see what's in your fridge in real time on your phone, whether it's something as big or expensive as that, or something as small as a smart plug that we looked at for $20. None of it will work well if you don't have strong Wi-Fi. So you can't underestimate the importance of a good router. Wi-Fi 6 is the latest standard if you are shopping for one. And if you are in a larger home or an older home, maybe with, say, concrete walls, you may also want to invest in what's called a mesh Wi-Fi system. So not only do you get the router that gives you your high-speed internet wirelessly, but you also get these little pucks that you place around the home, and it makes a wireless handshake, if you will. They all talk to one another. And that will give you, no more of those dead zones that are frustrating, where there's pockets of your home that have lousy Wi-Fi. Correct. Your smart TV, if you can't watch Netflix during a pandemic, that's not good. So you want to be able to, right? You want to be able to binge your favorite shows, name your streaming service that you like, but you got the idea.
So Marc, what is your favorite smart home gadget right now?
I'm a huge music fan, as I shared with you my history being a musician and a band member. So I love smart speakers for using my voice to ask for. It blows me away that I can literally say, play blank, name a song, and it will just start, because it's tied to a service like Spotify or Apple Music, each of which have like 70 million songs. So my favorite gadget is a smart speaker. They're as low as $29 certain times of the year for a Google Nest Mini or an Amazon Echo Dot. Usually they're about $50, $60, but there's lots of sales about 3 times a year where they drop by half. There we are. And then they go up in size and in audio quality the bigger you go. And so I just love the idea of being able to ask for a song. And you can, by the way, a little trick is you could say, like, name the song that you feel like listening to, but you can add the word live to it. It'll play the live version if that exists, and often it will, or a remix version or a cover version. You can get creative in what you ask, so it's pretty wild. So that's probably one of my favorite things. So music is what I use these smart speakers for the most, I'd argue, but they can also be used, of course, to control your smart home using just your voice, so hands-free. So it's pretty wild. So in my kitchen, for example, I have a Moen smart faucet that is near my smart speaker, just coincidentally, but I can use my voice to say, the keyword would be, okay, Moen, give me 3 cups of hot water. And not only will it dispense the amount of water that I asked for, but the desired temperature as well. It's pretty wild.
Laughing. Your home must be something.
It's not like the Jetsons. I've had people come into my house going, "Oh, I thought it was going to be like a Best Buy in here," or like the Jetsons, if you remember that cartoon from the 70s. I'm selective about what tech I use. We do have, I think my wife's favorite gadget is we have a floor mopping robot. So it's from the same company that makes the floor vacuuming robot, iRobot being one of the biggest ones. But instead, this washes your floor for you. So it just does its thing. And then it gives you, when it's done, it plays a little song, and then you're notified on your phone that it's done. And then you can see the map of what it covered. Like an overhead view, like as a real estate broker, Vivien, looks like a blueprint of a floor that was on, and you can name each room. Like because it doesn't know what room is that's the kitchen, and that's the family room, and that's the pantry, or what have you. But you can label it once. You just have to do that once, and then with your voice, you can say, okay, blank. I don't want to make your smart speakers go off, but clean just the kitchen, and it'll only do that area. I mean, that's how smart it's getting now.
It's unbelievable. Now, there's a question that was asked that I just noticed now that had to do with security and home security. Mm-hmm. And Barry Liebel's asking a question.
Okay. Hi, Barry.
I cannot believe that someone hacked me or hacked him through his Rogers router. They reset the security protection, got into his system, and he never realized that a router can be hacked.
It can. Again, it's rare that someone would maliciously target this particular person. It can happen. And the trick with routers is that there's always a default password that you get with it. And a lot of people don't change it. So, obviously that's not good. So one tip is when you've got your wireless network name, don't put your last name there, because if someone's walking down the street, they'll see Lebo Wi-Fi, for example. So have an arbitrary name. Mm-hmm. In fact, I actually call my hotspot on my phone, I call it virus alert. So if somebody is looking for a Wi-Fi hotspot and they see virus alert, they stay away. But that's actually the name of I'm sharing that with your audience, but so they don't try to join my Wi-Fi network. So number one is to, change the name of your Wi-Fi, have change the password from the default one, like admin, to something that's a good password. Make sure that the software is up to date. Often it's called firmware, where you can update the hardware. Like that's my router there. Whenever there's a firmware update, I download it. And that's my wireless printer. And that also has software to it. And then that way you're protecting yourself. So it's very rare that it happens, but it's unfortunate when it does.
On occasion, yes. Tell me about robots in the home. What's going to be with that one?
Right. So right now we're in the infancy of this. So I talked to you about my floor scrubbing robot, and there's a floor vacuuming robot, a window washing robot, and a lawn cutting robot. But these are obviously dedicated robots that autonomously will do its thing for you. And when they run low on battery, for most of them, they'll automatically drive itself back to the base, charge itself up, and then continue the job, which is pretty neat. Down the road, our homes are going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. And a lot of it is going to run autonomously, meaning we as humans don't have to interact with them as much. So for example, there'll be laundry pairs that will, like when the washer is done, it will take the clothes out of the back of the washer and put it into the dryer, or it'll be one unit and it'll do it for you. You don't have to manually do it. So less manual tasks. It'll start like that and get smarter and smarter. Eventually, and I do think we're still maybe 2 decades away from this, we will have a human-like robot in our homes, like a domestic robot, like Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, that will help with all your chores in the home, making breakfast, cleaning up after breakfast, getting the kids ready for school. Hopefully they'll be in classroom then, or getting them ready for at-home schooling. And it will autonomously do its thing. It'll have artificial intelligence. It'll have a human-like voice like Siri or Google Assistant or Alexa, and it will do its thing. It'll be an android, they call it, like, a human-like, a bipedal robot. But at first, we're just going to see more of these kinds of devices that we're looking at now, dedicated robots that will do the tasks for you that you'd rather not. right?
So we have right now this robot cleaning the house.
Yeah.
And this is
They've been
out
around
there.
for a while. And again, the prices drop. They have new innovations that come. So for example, this one that we're looking at here, when it, with some of the higher end models of the iRobot family called Roomba, when it's done its job, it drives itself back to the base to charge up, but it also empties that dustbin for you that's underneath that vacuum cleaner. And it empties it into another one that's in the base that charges it up, which you only need to remove every, say, 2 months.
Okay.
So that adds to the convenience factor, which is, if you ask me right off the top of our interview, what are the three, what are the reasons why we need a smart home? I said costs, like savings, convenience. So this falls into that, and security or peace of mind, that you have a camera on your family or on the contents of your home, just in case you need video evidence of anything like that. So the model that we're looking at here doesn't empty itself, but the higher end ones do.
How much would that cost? Sorry.
So the one that we're looking at there is only a couple of $100,
okay.
Maybe 300 Canadian to start. But it's got some limitations, but it can definitely vacuum carpet, tile, hardwood, and so on. The higher end models are as much as like $1,200, but that's the one that has the more powerful suction, smarter intelligence, better mapping technology, and then the ability to empty its own dustbin for you into the secondary base, like that, the secondary area there that you only need to replace. So that's the 9 Plus would be an example. There's other companies like Shark, the Shark Ninja folks. They also have one that empties its bin for you as well, and it's about half the cost, about $500.
Wow, very interesting. So a question about sticking to a family ecosystem: Amazon, Google, or Apple?
So just by process of elimination, Apple is not as smart as Google and Amazon when it comes to smart home tech. Apple does have a platform called HomeKit, but it's less evolved, I'd argue, than Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa. Plus, Apple only has their HomePod speaker. They're discontinuing their first one. They have a new one. It's not quite there yet in terms of artificial intelligence and home automation. It's getting there. So that leaves me to Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa. Both are super comparable and capable, and it doesn't matter. I have in our home, I guess, occupational hazard. We have different smart speakers and we have different devices, but they work with all three families, or at least Google and Amazon. The one caveat is that if you are going to be buying a smart speaker to install in every room, so you can use your voice, not just in one room like the kitchen, but in every room, if you have ones from different families, you're going to have to remember, what's the wake word? Is it Alexa? Is it okay blank? Her name, I don't want to say it, but Google, or is it Siri? And that way you're going to have to remember. That's not going to be very handy. So I would stick with one speaker, smart speaker family, but in terms of devices, they all work very well together.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So I see Victoria's question here. It's for something as basic as turning the lights off and changing the color of your lights and all that. All three families, Apple, Google, and Amazon, all do a very similar job.
So we have a question. Thank you, Vicki. Great that you asked the question. And another question from Barry: I find the window washing robots fascinating. Are they safe for high-rise living? We didn't talk about condos, so.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't talk about condos. I don't know. I mean, they're supposed to be, they suction on and they're wired. They're not wireless. They're connected to, there's only one model that I can think of. And yeah, they apparently suction and they've got like a tether just in case they fall off, but they're, from what I've seen, and I don't own one, and I've never reviewed one, but I've seen them at trade shows and I've written about them, that yeah, they suction pretty good. They are obviously cleaning vertically, which has its challenges, i.e. Gravity, but they do suction on pretty well. Yeah, but they're usually tethered just in case and not wireless. But yeah, it gets better and better year after year. I mean, again, these companies do really well. That's a cool video.
Isn't that something? I've never seen that before. Wow.
Yeah, neat.
Really something. So 1 or 2 last questions. I see that you have written a book on the Apple Watch for Dummies.
Yes.
Tell us about that, because I'll be honest with you, as one ages, there's security falling. things happen in the home, accidents outside one's home, falling on its steps, and you need to phone 911. And I've been told that you can use Siri, and I don't want to activate my thing by saying the word, my iPhone. I don't have the watch, but tell us about that. You're constantly connected with that device. Plus, you can ask for emergency care, call 911. What do you think about the Apple Watch?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of it. It's not cheap, but and you do, for the most part, need an iPhone. They made some changes last year where there's like this family setup option, but for the most part, you need an iPhone for it to work well. So there are a couple of little catches there, but they work very well for most tasks. So they, of course, at the very least, they notify you when a call is coming in. You can talk through your watch if you like, shows you text, emails, and all that. You can reply with your voice, calculates your steps, reminds you to breathe, to exercise, and it does all that stuff that every other smartwatch does. You can use it to get into your home with a smart deadbolt or smart lock by waving your hand. You can buy things at retail, but I get most excited when it comes to health and wellness. So Apple Watch, more so than the competition, i.e. Fitbit and Samsung and a couple of others, they're really good with things like fall detection, as you mentioned. Instead of paying a monthly fee with some companies to wear a pendant around your neck or what have you on a lanyard, which requires a monthly ongoing service, which can add up. Apple Watch, it's built right in. So if it detects a sudden fall, it asks you if you're okay. And if you don't reply, then it will start calling down the list of your contacts, whether it's like a caregiver or emergency services. But you first have to not answer at all or say, I need help. Otherwise, if you say I'm okay, it's not going to. So there's very few like false calls, if you will. So that's great that Apple Watch has that. And it goes one step further. It has a lot of built-in tools to help monitor your heart health and even your breathing. It's got a built-in ECG, electrocardiogram, and if it detects anything unusual, it notifies you. Or if you don't reply when it notifies you, it can notify, your loved ones. It also has, blood pressure, like all kinds of like issues like arrhythmias and all that, all on your wrist. So it's got like a blood O2 monitor, the latest model, which is amazing. So if it detects an elevated or a low blood O2 reading, it tells you right away. So fantastic that we're just scratching the surface on where it's going to go. But this is all on your wrist. It's all like listening to you and making sure you're okay. It's a nice companion. Yeah. And you don't even need a phone, by the way. So some of these models like Apple Watch have an optional cellular component. In Canada, it's about $10 extra per month. But that means you can go for a walk around your neighborhood, leave your phone at home, and still get a phone call in case of emergency.
That's something I've just recently been hearing about as the population, not just for older people, it's for anybody.
Anyway.
Things happen, and I've been told, look into this. I'm not pitching anything. I'm just thinking from a safety point of view.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense to look into that. And I saw that you wrote the book on the Apple Watch for Dummies. I thought I have to ask you that question.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I wrote Siri for Dummies as well. I know I kind of slammed Siri a little bit earlier when it comes to artificial intelligence. She is getting better. And now you have some more male voices, by the way, to choose from in Canada. But so it's not just a she, but Siri is great. And yeah, Apple Watch for Dummies is my latest book. So thank you for plugging that.
Yeah, no, that's really great. So I want to ask you one or two last questions.
Sure.
Do you feel that tech has improved our life for better or for worse?
I think overall better. I think technology is a tool in our arsenal to help us better our lives when it comes to health and fitness, for education. Imagine where students would be today during a pandemic if this was, 1921 instead of 2021, right? It would be very different without technology. So tech can be a wonderful enabler for us to do this interview remotely over a video camera. But at the same time, and that's just obviously a small sprinkling of examples of how tech has improved our lives. But obviously, like anything, there's those who want to abuse rather than use technology, right? A 3D printer can be a fantastic tool for printing, for example, a custom prosthetic to help a young boy run in a field and kick a ball. A 3D printer can be used to create a prosthetic leg that would work, that would be fitted for that child exactly. But that same device can be used to 3D print a gun. Right? So you can't blame the tech, it's the humans behind it. Similarly, social media can be a wonderful tool to stay in touch, especially for those we're all cooped up at home, a lot of stay-at-home orders and all that. It can be a great way to stay connected to loved ones and friends virtually, but social media can also be used to cyberbully kids. It can set unrealistic expectations of what we're supposed to look like, with all these filters and all that. Young like tweens and teens are unrealistically trying to match what they're seeing, which is through the lens of technology, which has been manipulated. There's cyberbullying, sexting, there's stalking. There's a lot of downsides to social media. These challenges that you hear about, TikTok challenges and all that, where kids are eating Tide Pods and all that. I'm not trying to be a fear monger, of course, but it's rare when it happens, but it's unfortunate. So social media is not great either, and it's all about moderation, Vivien. Right? I mean. Tech is wonderful for both kids and kids at heart, but too much of anything is not good. So like with my 3 teenagers, obviously since their whole, and I'm a technologist, I always make sure that they can look at people eye to eye at a social function, right? Pre-COVID at least, but that they're not like awkward, like that they're more comfortable looking at screens. No, it's my and my wife, Kelly, our job to make these kids well-rounded and not be so reliant on tech. Use it and love it, embrace it, but also know that there's a time that you're not supposed to use it. At the risk of sounding preachy, like I hope that doesn't sound like
I think that they're the upside and the downside. I mean,
like anything,
like anything. And if one isn't a techie, will they be left behind?
Increasingly, yes. But because tech is also getting easier to use, it's okay. Like, 20 odd years ago, if you needed to do a web camera chat, it was possible, but it was very crude and you had to jump through hoops to make it happen. Tech is getting easier to use. It's getting more affordable, generally speaking. So on one hand, it's getting easier, but on the other hand, the digital divide, if you will, is getting bigger. So the difference between those who like or understand tech and can afford tech and those who can't, unfortunately, that gap is getting greater, and that is going to be unfortunate for those who are left behind because even if like something like a government service, you used to be able to pick up a phone and speak to somebody. Now it's like you call and it's an automated voice telling you to go online.
Yes.
Well, even getting a vaccine shot, that was not an easy process through the website. It kept crashing, and yet I can only imagine if I was not as tech savvy, how difficult it would be to book a vaccination digitally when you're not savvy in that way, right?
Totally. It can be extremely, extremely frustrating for many people. There's no question. So Marc, how can people get in touch with you? I'm sure there's so many questions out there. You've answered so many, but there's so many more. And how can people best find you?
Thank you. So I think social media is a great place to start. So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if somebody had a question for me there, they can write it publicly, or they can DM me, direct message me a question, and I'll do my best to answer. That's probably easier than email, but if they prefer, they can send me an email from my website at marcsaltzman.com. And that's Marc with the C. There it is right there. Thank you. So that's my email address there if you prefer that. But social media is great. I write a tech tip of the day almost every day, where it's just an easy to apply way of getting more out of your tech, something that might save you time or money or aggravation, a little thing that you might not know that your tech can do, like your iPhone or your laptop. So I like to share those on a regular basis on social media. So if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, for example, you'll see them quite regularly. That's
really, really great to know. Well, this has been really interesting. It's never too late to learn more. I find every day with my wonderful team that work with me, Carmen and Sean and people behind me, I'm always learning. You have to be open to change. You have to not be scared, and going from one device to another, and always asking questions and going to the right people, such as yourself. So it's been really, really interesting, I must say.
Thank you.
Well, today, at this point, it ends our episode, and I really thank everyone for joining us. And in the next episode of Coffee with Vivien Live, which will be in 2 weeks, it's every 2 weeks on Wednesday, May the 12th, we will feature John Tobeleris, Guinness World Record holder and author, who will discuss how to write a book to increase your business sales. And I want to remind you that you can follow me on this series on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, on my website, viviensharon.com/live. And please feel free to like this video, leave a comment if you enjoyed it. And I will see you next time in 2 weeks on Wednesday at 12 noon. Bye for now.